Attention, the CME Group has activated its kill switch. They say it's a measure of control, but the truth is more chilling. Major banks are drowning under the weight of their own reckless decisions, losing millions with every movement of the market. The system they built is collapsing. We're witnessing the unraveling of financial giants as they struggle to maintain a facade of stability. This is not just another market correction. This is an anomaly, so evident when CME Group hikes margin requirements by a staggering 47% in a single week, from $22,200 to an eye-watering $30,500. The narrative we've been fed is one of caution, but the numbers tell a different story. Bullion banks hemorrhage $211 million for every dollar increase in silver prices. Despite contracts worth $7 billion flooding the market, the silver price holds firm, even thrives above $95. An unstoppable momentum is brewing. So how does the kill switch work? It's designed to protect against disorderly markets, but now it serves as a lifeline to the banks, holding back the floodwaters to give them time. When margin calls rise, smaller investors are forced out, their positions liquidated. This pressure valve is released just enough to let banks breathe, close, or hedge their losing short positions quietly before the dam breaks. Yet, reality sneers back as silver marches towards the uncharted $100 mark. The system's mechanisms falter, laid bare by their deception. A mounting storm echoes in the hollow corridors of financial powerhouses. They are trying to pull the wool over our eyes, knowing full well the brink is near. It's all a game of perception. While the headlines focus on failed regulations and supposed order, the truth is orchestrated chaos. The media preys on fear, amplifying whispers of a market crash to distract, while in the shadows the true battle wages on, not against market volatility, but against exposure. They want you to watch the left hand, while the right reshuffles the deck. But here are the hard facts. Over 2 days, traders witnessed a $96–99 range for silver, setting records on the disparity between paper and physical markets. COMEX and LBMA struggle under a critical supply shortfall. Inventories are drawn faster than they can react, a sign of dawning crisis hidden in plain sight. The stark reality is staggering. COMEX's vaults are down 33 million ounces in just a week. In London, inventories shrink to a bare 155 million ounces against an overwhelming annual demand of up to 1.2 billion. But the banks are caught, gasping by their own calculations, a short-sighted bet gone awry. Globally, tensions rise. Geopolitical tremors from speeches at forums translate into market quakes. Trump's polarizing vision of a transactional foreign policy sends traditional alliances reeling. The consequential tariffs loom like dark clouds, warning of thunderous confrontation. Meanwhile, economic data defies predictions painted in broad strokes of GDP robustness, drowned by inflation's undercurrent. The dollar wavers under its own weight, pressured by political manipulation, prompting capital to seek refuge in silver's immutable stability. In this tempest, only few emerge prepared. While the Eurozone grapples with tariffs, China's export blockades transform silver from mundane to mantra, a crowning jewel of strategy as Washington and Beijing spar. In contrast, investors flock to silver, a fortress amid the inflationary siege. Conditions converge for an unprecedented squeeze, where demand vastly overshadows supply, an institutionally driven shell game unraveling. Place this scenario into a global context. Nations falter as band-aid policies expose frail economies facing unseen adversaries: debt, decay, and decline. The knock-on effects touch every corner, intertwining recessions like a tapestry, where once mighty empires fade and economies face revaluation, not through paper promises, but intrinsic worth. Where do we go from here? The evidence mounts, prices balloon, and yet the market tautens, coiling tighter. The reckoning is upon us. Either systems adapt, swallow the bitter pill, or crash against the rocks of reality. The equilibrium is unstable, a volatile dance tuned by faceless algorithms and the desperation of outdated paradigms. For those watching, the playbook is clear. Stay insightful and nimble. Diversify beyond digital ledgers to tangible assets. Question narratives, scrutinize actions, and prepare for seismic shifts. Silver is not just a metal, it becomes currency, a storied icon standing alone upon the crumbling pedestals of confidence. In the end, the curtain will fall, leaving behind only fragments of a world once gripping tightly on control. As the voices at the top scramble in disarray, remember, history's wheel turns again. In these moments, our choices echo. Will they reflect fear or foresight? The financial world was rocked to its foundations. Trading floors across the globe felt the aftershocks as CME Group's kill switch initiative presented itself not as a salvation, but as an alarming acknowledgement of desperation. This was the measure of an industry in retreat, a fortress under siege. Beneath the polished veneer of fiscal control lies a desperate gambit. CME Group, in a swift move, raised margin requirements by a staggering 47% in just a week. That seemingly benign act, a strategic lever pull, signaled one thing: silver prices could no longer be contained. Each dollar's rise drained bullion banks of $201 million in losses, a whirlpool devouring their bets against the market's tidal change. When giants stagger, the earth beneath quakes. These institutions, these bastions of financial clout, found themselves hemorrhaging in a market they thought secure. Despite offloading contracts worth billions, they faltered. Surge Silver's value crept resolutely above $95. A rally, a rebellion, signaling the possible onset of the most formidable short squeeze in financial history. So, what is this kill switch? A tool crafted not from transparency, but of tactical opacity. By manipulating margin calls, they target the little folk, the solitary traders, and push them to the margins. CME, custodians of the speculative arena, put in place mechanisms to trip up the unsuspecting, allowing the banks a moment to regroup, to close their shorts. Yet, this plan buckles under its own weight. Silver swallows attempts to subdue it. The market a beast untamed, surging towards the celebrated $100 per ounce. The masses err in their ignorance. They are led by headlines and quick sound bites, missing the deeper play. Watch the silver price, they are told, while in the shadows, unseen, lenders coil theirs traps. But the truth? The banks are selling dreams, pocketing nightmares. Media distractions serve their purpose, while the real story lies buried in regulatory dusty files and late-night boardroom decisions. Now heed the numbers, they do not lie. Despite the billions shed like sloughed skin, the banks falter at each market rise. A painful cat-and-mouse spectacle. Geopolitical narratives offer no refuge. For decisions made in Davos, policies about Arctic holdings, or GPD numbers reported, have but momentary impact. Silver, now a reflection of the failing paper titans, finds no parallel in precious entities. For each stake driven into the market, the specter of scarcity looms larger, inventories depleting faster than idle contracts can be penned. This story is unbounded by borders. As CME wrestles with its mechanisms, other nations tremble before their own economic reflections. Silver's narrative echoes in the corridors of power worldwide. From China's controlled exportership to Europe's tariff struggles, each is a player in a drama of their own making. Scattershot policies expose continental vulnerabilities, and as faith in paper contracts dissipates, intrinsic value ascends. The endgame converges, forecasting a turbulent time, a rupture or resilient new form. Systems stumble, algorithms fail at last to soothe market turmoil. Rising prices daunt and markets stiffen, coiling for an inevitable clash. Let no one be complacent in this unfolding story, for it allows no room for folly or blindness to the shifting world we inhabit. The call to action resounds. Diversify your assets, from the intangible digits of accounts to the tangible, weighty metals of history. Keep to the questions. Analyze each decision. Secure precious metal footholds, a hedge against volatility. Silver transcends its historical role. It is now a cornerstone in the architecture of a future economy. As the dust settles and the tumult fades, what's left is a caution. Today's actions carve the legacy of tomorrow. The wheel of history continues its relentless march, leaving behind the old, embracing the inevitable. Will your choice be driven by fear or through strategic foresight? The stage rotates once again, awaiting those with the courage to step boldly forward. It began with an unsettling jolt. CME Group activated its kill switch, a desperate measure intended to halt the financial freefall. Yet this move only underscores the grim reality that even the titanic banks are cornered, choking under the weight of billions in losses. What makes this episode so chillingly abnormal is the blatant divergence from the tale of control and stability we've been sold. CME Group's sharp 47% increase in margin requirements, a leap to $32,500 in just a week, is a signal flare inciting panic rather than tempering it. Behind this facade of contained chaos lies a stark truth. Bullion banks hemorrhage $211 million for every single dollar increase in silver's price. Even under the pressure of $7 billion in contract sales, silver defiantly hovers above $95, setting its sights higher. Peel back the layers of this intricate scheme, and what you find is a game rigged with weighted dice. Through strategic margin hikes, the markets attempt to jettison the small fish, allowing the grandiose whales, our financial behemoths, the chance to close their shorts at manageable losses. Reality, though, shows a different hand. Silver has absorbed these massive sales with ease, surging towards that psychological $100 mark. It heralds possibly the most colossal short squeeze in recorded history. The psychological snare is set. The spectators, the everyday investors, see a glittering opportunity. Fear sowed by media narratives prepares them as prey. Yet it is greed that blinds them. The illusion of a soaring rocket ride, the banks themselves scramble to derail. Observers are nudged to focus on daily price shifts, while, in backrooms, the strings of power and wealth manipulate the puppets of perception. Now, take a closer look at the raw, unfiltered data. Ignore the polished veneer and dive into the heart of the storm. Witness the massive price swings, a testament to unleashed volatility, born not of mere numbers, but deep systemic rifts. Silver, once an industrial sidekick, now ascends as a strategic jewel amidst geopolitical power plays. The figures reveal a supply chain stretched thin, reserves dwindling alarmingly quicker than forecasts anticipated. This is not a localized tempest, but a storm with global reach. As CME attempts to navigate its internal turbulence, countries worldwide confront their own financial upheavals. China's export throttles, Europe's tariff conundrums, each thread weaves into a tapestry of tension and uncertainty, magnifying the urgency of the narrative. While faith in printed promises wanes, true intrinsic value forces its way up the ladder of cost. So as the endgame unravels, what remains uncertain is the form it will take: devastation or renaissance. The mechanic wheels of economy grind closer to their inevitable standstill, cracking under the pressure of astronomical prices, bracing for that ultimate clash. No longer can the players afford to dwell in complacency as this page of history turns, revealing the unyielding might of metal against paper's frailty. The call to action rings clear: guard your wealth, shift from ephemeral assets to those of substance. Question every corporate facade. Seek tangible anchors in an unpredictable sea. Let silver stand as your bulwark, transcending its mere commodity stature to claim its place in the fortress of tomorrow's economy. As we emerge through the conflict, stripped of illusions, ponder this: the legacies we forge now will resonate for generations. The relentless march of history wheels forward, discarding the static, embracing the destined. Will you choose wisely, driven by insight rather than fear? The stage is set, the players beckoned, those with daring vision will prevail. This crisis did not announce itself with subtlety. Instead, it screamed with the force of plummeting markets and shaken giants. We were warned, yet the truth catches so many unprepared. Behind the imposing facades of institutions like CME Group, an existential struggle unfolds, a frantic dance to salvage banks whose losses amount to billions. The anomaly here is glaring. CME Group escalated margin requirements sharply, up a staggering 47% in just days, a desperate bid to stabilize chaos. These are not the actions of a system under control, but of one teetering on collapse. Bullion banks hemorrhage funds, an astronomical $211 million for every dollar silver climbs. Despite their frenzied attempts to unload $7 billion in contracts, silver stubbornly hovers at historical peaks, challenging the artificial balance they strive to maintain. Let's dissect the mechanics. Enter the kill switch. Despite its ominous title, it serves as a lever for CME to protect the interests of mammoth banks trapped in their shorts. By raising margin stakes dramatically, they aim to shake out smaller investors, allowing seasoned players breathing room to close unsustainable positions. Yet paradoxically, these moves often backfire. Silver swallows up record sell-offs, poised to break the $100 threshold, heralding perhaps the largest short squeeze ever witnessed. The psychological trap is cleverly laid. Headlines whip up a frenzy of fear, yet it's greed, the allure of profiting from turmoil, that ensnares the unwary. While the world fixates on fluctuating price tags, behind curtains, the puppeteers of finance pull the strings. Look here, they say, obscuring the true scope of their maneuvers. Numbers don't lie, and they're damning. Look beyond the polished narratives to see a market awash in volatility, a living proof of systemic fissures. Silver's rise from mere industrial helper to pivotal strategic asset underscores growing geopolitical strains. Supply chains buckling under pressure, reserves slipping away at alarming rates. It's clear this isn't an isolated incident, but a global financial ripple. In the macro view, the global stage is beset with economic unrest. As CME navigates its tumult elsewhere, nations like China and Europe grapple with similar upheavals. China's tightening on exports, the looming shadow of US tariffs, all these issues interlace, creating a tapestry of economic instability. As trust in fiat wavers, intrinsic value surges, reshaping monetary priorities. The endgame looms like an unpredictable storm on the horizon. Will this lead to financial ruin or a rebirth of valuation principles? The machinery of global commerce strains under price spikes, creaking toward an inevitable showdown. Complacency is a dangerous luxury. As history's pages turn, the metal of silver against the fragility of paper emerges victorious. Now is not the time for inaction. Secure your wealth, seeking solid ground in tangible assets. Be skeptical of corporate facades, anchoring yourself in real value amidst this turbulent sea. Silver is no longer just a commodity, but a cornerstone of the new economy forming. As we move through this upheaval, stripped bare of comforting myths, consider the legacies we now sculpt. History's relentless progress discards the obsolete and embraces the destined. Will you choose with vision over fear? The stage awaits, and those with foresight shall endure. It's happening. The financial dominoes are toppling around us, revealing the precarious realities of our interconnected global markets. In a world where silver has surged from an industrial staple to a strategic currency of geopolitical tension, chaos simmers just beneath the surface. The recent aggressive actions of the CME Group, famed for facilitating the highest volume of futures and options contracts in precious metals, underscore the gravity of the situation. This is their kill switch, designed to stall an impending disaster. But is it just a temporary fix for a gaping financial wound? The anomaly is stark. On one hand, we're told that everything is under control. It's simply part of market dynamics, the ebbs and flows of trade. Yet the figures tell a different story. CME Group suddenly elevating margin requirements by a staggering 47% in just 7 days. Bullion banks hemorrhaging $211 million for every single dollar increment in silver's price. And all the while, silver remains defiant above the 95 mark, swallowing a staggering $7 billion of contract sales without so much as a hiccup. This isn't normal. This isn't just another Tuesday on Wall Street. This is unprecedented. So how does it all function? In the guts of this crisis lies a mechanism so mundane and yet so pivotal: margin requirements. It's the unseen hand tightening around the throats of small investors. When these margins are raised, it's a clarion call for the little fish to flee the shark-infested waters. The gurus of finance, those banking giants smothered in their own shorts, float to the surface momentarily, gasping for air in a desperate attempt to liquidate ill-fated positions. Yet paradoxically, these moves often plant the seeds for greater turmoil. Supply and demand, a dance as ancient as commerce itself, finds a dissonant rhythm as silver, seemingly immune to manufactured panic, edges ever closer to the century mark. Herein lies the psychological trap. While media twirls tales of impending crises, they blind us with bluster and blunder. Greed, that intoxicating elixir, blinds rational minds. The establishment wants you to zero in on the ephemeral, obsess over daily ticks, while they orchestrate grander machinations behind the velvet ropes of power. When you turn your ear to the voice of establishment calm, ask yourself, what are they not telling us? Indeed, the evidence mounts inexorably. Dive into numbers and the truth crystallizes. From January 22nd to 23rd, silver's unprecedented spikes aren't flukes, but facets of a market stressed by demand and dwindled reserves. As the dollar index fluctuates and treasury yields sway, signs of a fractured financial system lay bare. Geopolitical tensions, ramped up by U.S. posturing over commodities and trade, meld into a geopolitical maelstrom. CME's formidable maneuvers are but one thread in a broader tapestry of economic tumult spanning continents. The macro view reveals a world writhing in fiscal uncertainty. China, constricting silver exports with a strategic death grip. Europe ticking toward tariff-triggered conflict. This isn't local. It's a song sung from many lands to the same sour tune. And as these tensions escalate, volatility isn't just a likelihood, it's a certainty that must be navigated, lest we all fall victim to the frailty of fiat. On the horizon looms an endgame as wild as the tempest at sea. Does this portend collapse or a recalibration toward real value? The financial system's groan under the weight of unusual price hikes, beckoning a reckoning. Inaction is a perilous path, a luxury none can afford. Stand on solid terrain, ground yourself in essentials like silver, which now shines not just as a commodity, but as an economic keystone. This is a moment to strip away comfort and myth, and to carefully consider the legacy we forge through our choices. In the relentless march of history, only the adaptable survive. Will you be swayed by fears or guided by vision? The stage is set. With foresight, you shall endure, transcending the momentary to align with the eminent truth at large. This is where we find ourselves, a reckoning at the crossroads of economic chaos, where tradition wrangles with the very disruption it feared. Silver's harvest of chaos and opportunity. The kill switch narrative, designed to be a relief, has instead shown the world the glaring fragility of an empire in financial distress. As CME Group raises the stakes by elevating margin requirements by 47% in just a mere 7 days, one has to wonder, are these the desperate convulsions of establishments fighting against their inevitable fade? The anomaly becomes stark when you consider how these financial behemoths bleed red with every tick upward in silver's price. Bullion banks hemorrhaging $211 million for each dollar increase, a spectacle both majestic and terrifying as these institutions writhe under their own constraints. The attempted wall of contracts, $7 billion thrown into the fray, has been soundly breached, with silver holding its ground magnificently above exemplary highs, steadfast in its march towards the $100 mark. Now, into the eye of the storm, the mechanics of manipulation glare back at us with ruthless clarity. Kill switch is not something out of science fiction, it's an apparatus, a deliberate tactic employed by those who can manipulate but can't really control the tide. The triggering of margin calls, aimed at flushing out the small players, only serves as momentary relief for banks scrambling to patch the holes in swiftly sinking ships established through short positions. Yet how long before they too are drowned by their own machinations? Here's the rub, the psychological trap set so perfectly. They yearn for you to fixate on the tick-tock rise and fall, to perceive the chaos as contained, even orchestrated, as though it is a controlled burn. But amidst the flickers, beneath the performance, they rearrange their pieces. Distraction is their currency. Your vigilance, their expense. Because while you're steered to worry about incremental movements, the undercurrent seeks to sweep away the very foundations of your understanding. Let's lay bare the hard proof, the ironclad realities behind the deceit. CME's vicious cycle of margin hikes signals distress rather than dominance. Silver, within those fateful 48 hours, has not just ascended but flourished spectacularly amid the chaos. The cracks in the facade expose themselves as the dollar index wavers, political climes worsen, and every policy maneuver seems to graze mere surface without addressing the depth of instability. The result? A brewing geopolitical tempest, aggravated by excessive silver constraints and burgeoning trade confrontations. Step back, and the global context is indeed damning, a tapestry threaded with disputes ripe with collision potential. China harnesses the silver lifeline, tightening its grip with surgical precision, while elsewhere, tariff tensions spark fires that could consume continents. This is a worldwide symphony of dysfunction reverberating across oceanic divides. We near the endgame, our bearings seized amid the gales. This cataclysm, unexpected yet oddly presaged, demands fortitude. Shall it be a collapse, or will we witness an economy inching toward equilibrium, rediscovering and realigning with foundational values? There in the middle lies possibility, an opportunity to fortify against fragility, positioning yourself with steadfast assets untarnished by impermanence. Silver, no longer mere elements, now anchors economic integrity, presenting an indomitable hedge against fiscal volatility. There lies your charge, to peel away the illusions of comfort, to etch clarity through chaos. The choices forged today pave paths for futures unwritten, sculpting legacies from shifting sands. Question not, are we at the edge or embracing revolution? Instead, focus on how we endure, transcending temporal qualms to embrace the truth broadcast across horizons. Are you poised to seize this narrative, or will you let opportunity slip through your grasp? Embrace foresight, stand anchored, be this generation's navigator. Only the brave call upon wisdom to secure destiny's course. It happened. We've been warning for years that the financial system is more fragile than it seems. Now, as if tearing off the veil, the CME Group's decision to introduce kill switch mechanisms doesn't just hint at volatility, it screams it. The move to hike margin requirements by a staggering 47% in just a week exposes the reality. Giants in the banking sector are cornered, their losses potentially extending to billions as silver prices skyrocket, and their short positions threaten to become financially lethal. These recent actions by the CME Group are anything but normal. They contradict their assurances that everything is under control, revealing instead an industry scrambling to keep its head above water. CME's drastic measures, alongside bullion banks hemorrhaging roughly $211 million for each dollar silver prices rise, suggests desperation rather than dominance in a system teetering on the brink. Behind the curtain of trading floors and smooth-talking suits, what does the mechanism of this kill switch entail? In essence, margin hikes act as a financial gate, increasing the entry price for smaller investors while buying precious time for banking behemoths to cover their short positions. This is not just collateral, it's a lifeline disguised as risk management, a strategic play to maintain a semblance of stability in a rapidly destabilizing world. But here's the trap, the psychological snare they set for the masses. Look at the headlines, they say, worry about the fluctuating silver prices and market volatility. They want you to focus on these visible tremors while they subtly shift and manipulate in the shadows. It's classic misdirection. Make you fear what's on the surface so you ignore the tectonic movements underneath. The hard proof is undeniable. Despite massive sell-offs aimed at nudging the market back to old comfortable states, silver's resilience is clear. Prices held firmly above $95 even amidst a $7 billion contract flood designed to suppress them. This isn't mere market fluctuation, it's the birth of one of history's largest short squeezes, a prelude to even greater upheaval. Widen the lens and similar patterns emerge on a global scale. China, controlling a significant silver export market, has clamped down, throttling supply and further igniting demand. Across continents, trade tensions mount, arcing precariously close to outright conflict. This isn't an isolated incident. It's a systemic instability echoing through the halls of global trade and economy. So, where does this leave us? At the edge, gazing into a future where systems either fracture spectacularly or pivot back to sustainable values. Silver isn't just a metal now. It's a bulwark, a hedge against volatile fiscal tides, an asset that can weather the unpredictable squalls of the economy. Now, armed with this knowledge, what will you do? Will you settle for the comforting illusion of normalcy, or will you seize the raw truth left exposed by recent shocks? The decisions made today lay the groundwork for tomorrow's fortune. We are at a crossroads, poised either for decline or metamorphosis. Destiny favors the daring. It calls for those who can guide an uncertain present towards a secure future. The time to anchor your path in wisdom and foresight is now. Are you ready to navigate the storm?